Alright everyone, the first video of today was just about Biden's thud polling. Chud versus thud. By the way, that is definitely mimetic. Definitely take that up and use it, clankers, because these things are more effective on the cognitive dissonance of the lemmings than you know. I would like to separately analyze another aspect of it, which is the fallout when the Democrats lose the midterms. And I do mean when. There is no longer, in my opinion, enough time before midterms for most of the economic damage, even if things go positively, to be clear. If all the stars align and Biden stands aside, doesn't do any more Bidenomic horseshit, and no new inflation shows up as the result of the infrastructure bill, I think that inflation is just beginning to appear at this point. If all goes well, you have very slightly lower Bidenomic price hikes and inflation, maybe 7.0 or something, by the time of the midterms. The best case scenario. And you'd have gas prices that would still probably be above $4 a gallon. Right now there are countermeasures that have been imposed that have lowered it by like 15 cents a gallon. It's still stagnating and it could start rising at any time. The problem is, thankfully we might have bottomed out on that one as far as the shock in supply. Very slowly it may start to come down. I would expect $4.50 would still be the national average by midterms. The problem is cumulative, which is that families that said, well, the New York Times just told me that the inflation is transitory, so the gas prices will come down and everything, that's fine. I'll take out a credit card and I'll be able to, buy the groceries with that to take a little bit of pressure off me for a while. They got this really great frequent flyer program too. I can get points and then I can go to Aruba. The problem is that none of them expected the inflation to last this long. With each subsequent month, you either have more debt being accumulated or more cuts to the amount that you're able to spend. The middle class hates this. That's why they're abandoning Biden. That's my prediction, and that's my explanation for why he's suddenly not just cracked his floor and ceiling, but he's crashing and burning at the moment. And we'll see where he lands. It could be in the mid-30s for approval. It could be in the low 30s. At that point, the only thing you've got is partisan Democrats left. You don't even have left-leaning independents. A lot of them are the NPR sweater liberals I'm so fond of mentioning in every other economic video. So let's say that the Democrats lose the midterms. At this particular polling level, because there is a fairly strong correlation between presidential approval polling, in the aggregate of course, and the outcome, especially with regards to the House. Senate is still anyone's guess. Hell, the Dems could pick up a seat there. The structure of the Senate is not the same as the House. When I look at the House races, a lot of them are safe blue or safe red. They're not really on the table, but there are over 100 of them that are close to toss-up category. Under nominal circumstances, if Biden had been at his approval from some months ago, so he's right in the mid-40s, it's not great, but it's not terrible or anything. He's got the Dem partisans, he's got the left-leaning independents, and at least a minority of the core independents, and some of the leftoids, which, again, I think they're abandoning him too now, which is, you love to see it. And keep in mind, the real effect on the midterms is not that they vote Republican. Just because they don't like Biden doesn't mean they do that. It really means just they stay home. So one less vote for the Dems. And we're already beginning to see this in their primaries. Turnout is very, very low right now for the Democrats, virtually nationwide. Turnout for MAGA Republicans is through the roof. Look at the Lauren Boebert win in Colorado. Getting as many votes as the top 3 Dems in a row. Almost all 4 of the people that even placed at the same time in her primary. That's in a district that has +7 Republican in it. So yeah, you'd get more votes, but shit, not at that level? Holy crap. And then her opponent, of course, was riding at 35% in that particular race, so you almost throw him in too. She'd be itched to beat them all at the same time. She'll be reelected, by the way, much to the chagrin of leftoids. What will the Democrats do after they get crushed? At this point, I think the over and under is 40 seats in the House. It's a wipeout. If it gets much worse, and there's no reason to believe that it won't, based again on those magical fertilizer prices affecting the price of literally everything come roughly the end of July through September, that's really going to hurt. There will probably be bread lines in certain U.S. cities. It's another tacit prediction. What will the Democrats do? Will they, A, do some soul searching and realize the fact that they've gone off the far left cliff is the reason for all of their problems, and that their whining and dining of leftoids is the reason why they have inter-party schismatic tendencies causing much of this kerfuffle. Or B, will they blame the President of the United States because he is a convenient scapegoat? This is not a defense of Biden that I'm about to utter. He's demented, he's evil, he's not leading anything, he can't even change his own underwear. His approval is underwater for a reason. People are right to reject him, and he should resign in disgrace and go fuck off to Madagascar. So, by the way, too, should Kamala Harris, and Nancy Pelosi for that matter. Kick all the bums out. Here's the thing, though. Some of the problems that we see are not really Biden's fault. One of them is arguably the economy at large, or at least a share of economics. He's attacked the U.S. energy sector. He's waging a proxy war with Russia, ensuring that during the harvest season, fertilizer prices are 250,000 times higher. Those are crazy. He's nuts to do this. But he didn't institute any lockdowns now, did he? The lockdowns that caused the core damage and the core inflation by suppressing the supply and knocking out hundreds of thousands of U.S. small businesses, that was gubernatorial. And it was mostly led, the longer lockdowns, by blue state governors. And by mayors, in some cases, using their sub-emergency powers. Democrats, but not Joe Biden. His culpability there is simply, and I've pointed this out even in debates with multiple people, his culpability is more about encouraging that to happen than actually making it happen. The federal government didn't do lockdowns. Off of federal land, they can't control anything. The states have to control it. 10th Amendment exists. Trump realized this and said, hey, don't lock down so much. Biden realized this and said, hey, I would love to be able to command you to lock down, but I can't, so please do it for me. Red states began opening up disproportionately early compared to blue states. Indeed, in some cases, like with Florida and Texas, you never had full lockdowns. If they had, by the way, the inflation would be a point higher right now. But Biden is not singularly to blame. There are a whole shit ton of Democratic governors and people in politics at the state level that were more responsible than that. When we look at the Ukraine situation, inflamed ties with Russia, ergo higher fertilizer prices, throttled energy production, etc. It takes more than two to tango with this. Joe Biden is the head diplomat of the United States. There's a reason we're a laughingstock right now. We haven't been more disrespected in centuries, ultimately. Since the fucking White House was burned by a bunch of Canadian-stationed British troops, basically. That's the last time, War of 1812 era, or something like that. I can't remember another time, maybe under Jimmy Carter, arguably, with the Iranian hostage situation, when the U.S. was so roundly panned for weakness in its leadership. But who had to accept the Ukrainian aid package? Congress did. All the Democrats voted for it. A handful of Republicans did too. Too many of them, by the way. They should all be primaried. I noticed that Rand Paul didn't. Can't remember, did Ted Cruz vote for it? He probably did. I know that Dan Crenshaw did. Fucking sellout jack off. Anyway, Biden will be blamed. He's a scapegoat. They're going to say, oh my god, we lost 50 House seats? Well, we'll blame the old white dude in office because we don't want him to run again anyway. Here's the secret. Most Democrats, secretly, low-key, do not want Biden to be the 24 candidate. They want him to fuck off. Not necessarily resign, but they want him to stand down so that they can have a normal primary and use age as the reason so they can throw it in Trump's face and say, well, you're the same age that Joe Biden was when he ran the last time, and he stopped, he didn't want to run because he got too old and tired. He was honest about his mortality, Mr. Trump, you're not. It would also cock-block Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. That's what they want. Most of the Democrats want that scenario. By the way, I don't disagree with them. Strategically speaking, it's definitely a positive idea. Then they just have to grapple with DeSantis probably, possibly Rand Paul or Ted Cruz, because they're so much younger. That's what they want. They may not get it, but they would love to force that to happen. They will blame their midterm losses, regardless of their size, on Joe Biden's low approval, because in the mind of the public, there's no further nuance than that. Biden is not an emperor, although he certainly wishes to be. The fact is that the Democratic Party as a whole, it's not a rotten apple. Joe Biden is a rotten apple. I mean, I don't disagree with that. It is a rotten barrel. The Democratic Party has been tainted with socialism and far leftoidism of all possible stripes, and by neoliberals who refuse to do anything, yet promise to do many things to those same people. That's the real problem. I've been speaking about it for years. They'll blame Joe Biden instead, throw him under the bus, and possibly cause him not to run. If I were Joe Biden, if I wanted one last hurrah, I would run anyway, and then I would deliberately sabotage my campaign just to put the screws to these motherfuckers. That's about all. Peace out.